Good evening. I'd like to call this Concord Township Zoning Commission meeting to order, Tuesday, November 7th, 2017. We have a fairly busy agenda this evening, so we will get right to it. First of all, I'd like to welcome Hiram and Sue to the table this evening, being our most capable replacements and substitutes. So our alternatives have stepped up tonight to be with us, which is nice, filling in for Rich and Morgan. So it's nice to have you both with us this evening at the table.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Yep.
Good to be here.
Good. First item on the agenda this evening is the amended site plan review application number 28 for Mr. Lance Osborne of Crowd Road Partners, LLC, for a proposed freestanding restaurant at the Cryle Crossing Retail Center located at 7689 Cryle Road and being permanent parcel number 08A0190000270. And I'm assuming that you're Mr. Osborne, and you're
It's
going to
me.
have a little talk with us this evening.
Yes,
Tell us
sir.
what's going on.
Thank you for your time this evening. And once again, I'm Lance Osborne, representing Cryle Road Partners.
Would you give your address for the record, please?
7670 Tyler Boulevard, Mentor, Ohio, 44060.
Thank you.
As you see here is the overall Cryle Crossing site plan. We have completed the Starbucks building, the Cryle Crossing number 3 building, excuse me. We're under construction on building number 2 right now, and here tonight for a proposed Chipotle on the 4th building, which is an out parcel on Cryle Road, as you'll see right here. Originally, we proposed a 3,900 square foot space for that building. We've reduced the size to make it a single tenant occupied building. It'll have a patio, a pickup window, and be your standard Chipotle on the indoors. We've received BZA approval on those items. Last month we received that, and we're tonight here to update our site plan and hopefully get the aesthetics of the building approved as well. So we've increased parking for the overall development, and as you can see on a more zoomed in site plan, that is what the building that we're on the agenda tonight for, on a closer perspective. And these are the proposed elevations of the building. So we can get into this later on the second agenda item, but I just wanted to show you that too. So going back to the site plan, there was a concern in the write-up, which we've addressed with this plan, regarding the dumpster enclosure.
Right.
So the dumpster enclosure has been relocated off of the main drive and to the rear, basically facing Pizza Roto. That'll be a 3-sided masonry enclosure with gates on the front of that dumpster enclosure.
Okay.
So we've made accommodations to relocate that, and everything else in the administrative write-up seems to be acceptable and agreeable. And with that being said, I'm happy to address any questions related to the site plan.
Now, I'm not that familiar with Chipotle. Are they traditionally a drive-through restaurant? Or?
No, so this will be one of the first or second pickup window. So it won't be a drive-through per se. So the way you would order would be on your cell phone or online, and then you would come and pick it up at this window. So you will not be able to order like you can from a standard, like the Starbucks per se.
Right.
So my understanding is it's strictly a pickup window. So this will be their second, probably in the state of Ohio. It's something they're exploring. But Ohio has the largest concentration of phone orders in their chain, basically. So they're trying to leverage that.
So it's still a drive up to pick up, though?
So just drive, yep, you can drive to it, pick up, and go on your way. There's also a door on the north elevation, so you can also walk in case you wanted to park and pick up too.
You know what their hours, traditional hours of operation are?
Traditionally, I think they're like 10 to 10. There are 10 of ours in Highland Heights, but don't quote me on that. It might go to 11, but I don't think they'll be open any later than that.
And there won't be any speaker boxes or people ordering from their cars, basically?
My understanding, there'll be no speaker box.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I've always thought Chipotle was kind of more of a counter service type of a restaurant.
Yep.
So it's nice that they're interested to try something in
It's
town.
evolution, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Heather, are you aware of the movement of the trash receptacle, or were you aware of that?
Lance did provide that to our office.
Okay.
However, it was after the staff write-up was
Right.
prepared.
Okay.
So I indicated that he could present that to you this evening as part of the discussion on how he was going to.
Does the relocation of the dumpster fit within, the guidelines and everything? Does it fulfill everything that needs to be done, or does that need some further analysis?
Overall, I
review?
think it's a better location than where it was originally proposed.
Right. Yeah, the original location I thought was kind of awkward.
It's
Kind of
It
weird.
could have presented
Yeah,
an issue
it looked-
on
it
the
just looked kind of
driveway, so.
awkward with traffic flow and things like that. So,
it's kind
Are
of
you
a-
going to take out some parking spaces with that new location?
Actually, we add parking spaces. The site plan, the updates we're doing to the site plan actually add overall parking spaces to the development.
Correct.
But yes, this location will take up a couple of parking spaces we could have had additionally, but we're happy to make the relocation.
I assume that there's enough room for the truck to come in and pick up the refuge.
Yep.
Somehow without putting any.
That's why we've moved it more towards the south. Let me get you the overall site plan. So that when they are circulating through the property, they can just pick it up there and go on their way. And then they're usually there early in the morning doing their pickup, so it should not interfere with operations of the center.
Because I know his trucks are pretty big,
Right.
and I've been in places where they have parking next to where the truck, where the refuge is.
Yep.
When the trucks come in, they practically, you see how they're really trying
Right.
to struggle to pick up the stuff because there's cars parked in next to it.
Right.
So this one.
So no, this will be a confined enclosure. They'll approach the enclosure, they'll have to open the gates and then approach it and then close the gates back up.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Has there been any traffic analysis done with that pickup window? The proximity to the double lanes going with the parking adjacent to there of going in the opposite direction?
It's the same layout, basically, that was approved with the Starbucks. And we haven't had any issues there, and that's more of a main driveway, this is really just a parking item.
Okay.
So, I mean, our engineers have looked at it, Chipotle's engineers and architects have looked at it. We haven't had it fully engineered by a traffic engineer, but we have had this site engineered by a traffic engineer, and this would actually reduce the perceived traffic as a reduction of the square footage.
now obviously the various Lake County entities have given us some feedback. Lake County Department of Utilities, the Lake County Engineers Office, the General Health District. They have some questions on here about, specifically like General Health District has asked, plans for sanitary sewer extension, and what's the time frame for the project, start to finish? Do you have any ideas on that?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I think you flipped over to the other staff report.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
And your packet's confused there.
Okay.
Do you need another copy real quick? This one?
So am I looking at the wrong one?
Yep.
Yep, I sure am.
Got it?
Son of a gun. Okay. Hold on a minute.
Do you want to pass it? You can pass this.
I found it. Okay.
Okay.
Never mind. It doesn't look like any of the Township Fire Department, Lake County Engineers, Stormwater Management, Lake County Department of Utilities, doesn't look like they have any real requirements or damning comments in this regard. Staff analysis, there's about 10 points on the staff analysis. And I've addressed, I would assume, these issues at this point. And then we have the staff recommendations. How do you feel about the 7 different recommendations that are, do you have any problems with the recommendations the staff has proffered?
Nope.
Okay. All right, why don't you give us the design review component then? Anybody have any questions on the board? Anybody have any issues? Any questions they'd like to ask any further? Nope.
Nope.
Okay, why don't you give us the exterior elevation review?
So the plan is to carry out the same masonry materials that have been used throughout the shopping center, which is a decorative stone for the base, and that's actually a full bedded stone, so it's not just like a lick and stick product. And then the consistent red masonry brick unit that you see throughout the project. And then the decorative metal will be bronze, which is what we've used throughout the project as well.
So it's going to be pretty much consistent with Starbucks and
Yes,
everything else will be...
we've tried to keep it as
Right.
consistent as possible, yes.
Okay, good. I think what you've done so far is very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think what we have so far has been a job well done. I think you guys have you represented it accurately, and you've pretty much adhered to everything you said you were going to do, which is nice. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do you typically put a drawing out like that without telling me what building it is? There's nothing on this drawing right here that shows me that it's the Chipotle building.
No, I guess you're right. No, I apologize for that, but that is the proposed Chipotle building,
Chipotle building, okay.
which is building 4 on the site plan.
I figured that, but I just didn't see it on there.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Any other questions, concerns, issues? Okay. We have a recommendation from the staff to conditionally approve the design review. And evidently we have an agreement to meet those conditions, right? Exterior elevations, outdoor patio elements, and the dumpster enclosure plans, which we've covered. So if we don't have any other questions, Heather, do you have any other comments? Or?
No, as long as Lance is okay, agrees with the other specific conditions, which then I would recommend the board still
Okay. All right.
give a conditional approval based on those stipulations.
Okay. At this point in time, I would ask for a motion in the affirmative to accept the proposal as presented with, of course, with the, based on the conditions that have been set forth by the staff.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the proposed say that. What is this? This is site plan review and then the design review applications as conditioned with the conditions listed in the report from the staff.
Thank you. Have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record reflect none was opposed. All in favor were aye, so we got a full, we have a unanimous decision. Motion carries. We're good.
Is that the vote for 1 and
Yes.
2, or
That's
just?
just for the Chipotle, right? Or were they both for the?
The way Jerry did the motion, he did it for both the site plan review and the design.
Site plan and the
Oh, right.
design
Okay.
review.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yep, so we're good to
so
go.
both items.
Okay,
Okay,
yes.
all right, great.
probably should have done them separately.
It's all right.
We discussed them
all
both
right.
together, so.
We
All right, great, thank you.
approved it.
We're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Did you have any idea before your step down, what's planned for the other building at this point?
Right now, the building is under construction. We have signed leases with a pet store, Subway, a yoga studio. We're working on a cell phone store, and that's really it for right now.
A pet store, like a
Pet Value.
Pet Value?
It's a national chain.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay, very good.
Yep.
Super, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, now I gotta find my agenda. Oh, here it is. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda is design review application 028. That's, we just did that,
We just
right?
did that. Yep.
So we go to item number 3, site plan review application 031 for Mr. Donald Plunkett of Studio One Design Inc. for proposed building addition and reconstruction of commercial building at 8109 Prowell Road and being permanent parcel number 08A 021 0000440.
Good evening. I'm Don Plunkett, Studio One Design Group, working for RT44 LLC. Site plan. This is the existing building, and this is the addition we are looking at adding to the building. The hardware store, Morale Hardware, is looking to move into that. They're going to have that space and a portion of the existing building. We are looking at adding parking in the front. Right now, there is parking in the front, but it's just single loaded. With the storefront, we wanted to get some more parking down there. We have the propane tank, which came before zoning appeals and was approved. It lines up at the face of the building. I don't know if you have any questions. The amount of square footage we're adding is 2,667 square feet. And we're 20 feet, 20 foot, I think like 2 inches off the property line. This property line actually is on an angle compared to the building, but the closest is 20 feet, 2 inches. So we have our 20-foot side yard setback. The building is behind the 50-foot setback. We did meet with the fire chief to go over some of his concerns. One of the things we need to do is add another door on that elevation, which isn't shown yet. But we're going to get that shown and coordinated with the Do It Best Hardware layout plan to make sure the doors work and we don't mess up their layout. So we'll be submitting that. There's a couple variances that we still have to get, and we're coming tomorrow night for those. One of them is our parking. We're less than 25 feet off. We're supposed to be 25 feet, but if we move that up, we can't get a double row of parking. So we'd like to, request that we get that. And then we also have an issue with, and again, it has to do with the angles of the building. We don't have 5 foot for a landscape bed. We have 3'4" at the narrow end and 6 foot something at the far end, which averages out. But again, we're not asking for you to do that, but we just wanted to make you aware that we know we have to still do that. There's a couple other challenges we're still trying to work through. One of them is the sanitary, and what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But we were hoping, and again, we're hoping by the time we get this open, we'll be able to tie into the sanitary. If not, I guess we'll be doing another septic system. But we've got to get that finalized, and we've been talking with them on that.
So you're having conversations now
Yes.
with the general health district on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have they said is the timeline? Or have they given any timeline?
We keep hearing drawings are going to be submitted, but I don't know that. And it's really been Dusty from Polaris who's been having those conversations. He's our civil engineer.
So that sewer extension is a county extension, or are you doing that as part of the project?
Yes, I'll let.
Can we get the tripod over there so he doesn't have to stand there?
Oh, didn't even notice after a while.
Yeah, it's kind of awkward for you there.
My name is Mark Georgi, and I'm with Route 44 LLC. And regarding the sanitary sewer,
Thanks, Heather. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, next.
the sanitary sewer is in front of Drug Mart, to the north end of Drug Mart, to south end of Drug Mart's property. The next property down is, we're one property south of that. A deal that Drug Mart made with our north property owner was that they were going to use a curb cut from their driveway, so they needed entrance for additional curb cut. For that use of the curb cut, they were going to bring their sanitary to their south end, which would be our north end. It hasn't happened yet, so we're waiting for. And last week they said they were supposed to have drawings there, so it's hopefully within weeks. Once they get it to our north end, then we can extend it.
So it sounds like there's a lot of things predicated on what ifs, and you're still waiting for all this stuff.
What?
And yet we have to make a decision tonight, whether we're going to.
No, I mean, if it comes down to it, we'll have to put in because our addition is going where the existing septic tank is. So we're gonna have to put a new one.
So if you don't get the approval.
If we don't get that, I mean, we don't have much other option. I mean, we'd hate to do that because we think it'd be, I mean, it's a lot of money to spend for something that hopefully we wouldn't be using.
And we have a deadline to be out of the hardware store at a certain date. We're a future tenant behind the hardware store, so it's, yeah, there is, I don't know if it's egg or the chicken, but.
I know, and it seems like if you have to go with septic, isn't there more state approvals that you have to have now in order to allow you to do that? Because I know the state over the years has really come down on septic systems. And they're very restrictive, just for homes, let alone what it would be for business like yours.
If push came to shove, we would have to pay and extend the sanitary sewer from Drug Mart ourselves.
And absorb the cost to do that.
Until someone tied into it, and then we'd get paid back, but
Yeah.
we've done it in the past, but it's a timing issue right now. If we don't have to do it, and everyone says we shouldn't have to do it because it's planned to go, it's part of a agreement between them, a written agreement, which I've seen, but somehow, they won't get their occupancy because they won't have a curb cut unless that sewer comes, so it's.
So certain parties have written agreements, but then again, to get you guys to move along with this. It's still up in the air though.
It is.
And that being said, I don't know how we be able to approve something when there's so much iffiness yet going on. You know what I mean?
That's very valid, Frank. Thank you.
Right.
You know, I'm reading I read the general health district's comments before, and I'm reading back through them right now. And it seems like there's an issue here with the holding tank, and that you need some EPA, some approvals from the Ohio EPA. And I'm not so sure that, from what I'm reading, that this is kind of like an automatic here, until you guys can tie into the sewers. It seems to me like their position is they would rather see you guys just tie into the sewers.
So would we.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
We definitely would. At one point, they had a temporary holding tank condition if they knew imminently that a sewer was coming down, and you can go into holding tank. But then EPA saw that we had additional land to the north and said, well, why don't you just build a new system if your system's not working? But we know, so I hear what you're saying.
Because, it says here that a Board of Health has taken responsibility for SFOS-TS, which is the small flow on-site sewage treatment system, shall not permit a holding tank. Holding tanks are subject to the requirements of the EPA under Rule 3745-42-11 of the Administrative Code. The Ohio EPA has disapproved the use of a holding tank located at 8109 Crowell Road on October 6th of 2017. And then it also says that the department recommends soil testing and engineering to be conducted on separately deeded property just north of 8109 Crowell Road to determine if a small flow on-site sewage treatment system is possible. Please note, if possible, a SFOS-TS must be sited on the same parcel as the structures served by the SFOS-TS. So I'm a little bit concerned about what they're saying here. It doesn't sound like they're willing to allow this, the holding tank. And have you done the engineering work and soil testing for this to make sure that you can do this, or?
Well, they're asking us to do it on our separate parcel. Can you put a sewage system on a separate parcel?
It says it must be sited on the same parcel as the structures served by the system.
Right.
So you would probably have to do I'm sorry to interrupt. It sounds like they would want you to adjust your lot lines, which
Right.
I believe you were planning on doing to accommodate the additional parking. But to me, the issue, whether they're going to do the sewer or the on-site septic, could be part of the conditional approval should you want to still move forward and give them a conditional approval. I don't think either way would affect the zoning layout and compliance, and one of the conditions what we were suggesting is they still have to provide, before the township would release a zoning permit, proof of compliance with either the health district if they're going to do an on-site septic or get their sewer plans approved. And depending on which route they go, if it changed any layout and if this site plan deviated at all from what you may conditionally approve this evening, they would have to present those changes back to you.
Right. Now, there's also, in addition to these comments from the general health, that the Concord Township Fire Department has recommended some changes. Have you talked
Yeah, we
with
met
them?
with them.
We met with them. We're adding a hydrant
Okay.
and additional door.
And
And
they're comfortable with
Yes.
with the meeting you guys wrote. There's nothing.
We met them
That they're
last
asking.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was before or after this is written, so.
Doesn't one of their comments indicate a sprinkler system?
That was one option. In order not to, we need to change our 2-hour wall to a 3-hour wall because he disagreed with our classification of S1, or we called it S1. We called it S2. He says it's S1, and that makes it need a 3-hour wall, so our 2-hour wall is going to have to change to a 3-hour wall, which would be basically furring and drywall on both sides of that. That, and then the door, there's a section he's quoting that he wanted, for every 100 feet, we have a door, and we're going to put that on again. Again, what we wanted to do, though, was coordinate that with the layout from the hardware
Okay.
for their racking and what have you, just so we don't end up with an oddball door with the rack. And then the hydrant.
But this comment here says the area of the building being used as an M-use group exceeds 12,000 square
It
feet.
does, but we're allowed 12,500 with our separation wall. And
Okay,
again,
okay,
and we'll have that on there, yeah,
okay.
on our revised drawings.
And are you aware of all the staff analysis issues that they brought up?
Yes,
And is there anything that they have laid out? There's a fairly lengthy list of
Yes.
items here. We've got 18 items that they brought up in their analysis, and then in addition to that, on their staff recommendation, they have 22 different items on their recommendation list. More than what we normally see. You know, we don't usually see that many items on a list to address. It seems like, you know, it seems like this is not very well prepared, or,
well, I mean, there's some items on there that again, we talk about the sight line, and our building has a 3-foot parapet all around the whole front of the building, and our units sit back 25 feet. And I think we calculated up to 300 feet away, you can't see anything, and then beyond that, you start seeing a fraction of it. If we put screening in front of that, your screening's going to be higher. I mean, again, you're never going to see more than a few inches of that top of that mechanical, you know, HVAC equipment. We want to put a screen on for people that are over 300 feet away.
right.
I mean,
Now, I understand
Yeah.
time is of the essence
Yes.
for you guys.
Right.
Believe me, don't think
Yeah.
we're not empathetic
yeah,
to that.
no, I mean, there's a lot, and again,
Right.
our fence around our dumpster enclosure, we'll raise that to 8 feet. A lot of these things are relatively simple things to do. There's
Right.
some that take a little bit more work, but I don't see them as, I don't think there's things that are going to dramatically impede us in getting our drawings in and satisfying the township.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is you have to meet these
Yeah.
requirements. They're going to
Right.
be conditions of the approval for your plan, so you've got some work to do to make sure that you meet these, that you meet all of these conditions. On the staff recommendation on the conditional approval of the design review subject to the conditions, with regards to, you mentioned the dumpster enclosure and the building walls and parapets, you're okay with all that?
Yes.
No issues there? Because I understand, like I said, I understand time is of the essence. You guys have some timing issues, and we certainly want to work with you to try to help you out. But you need to help us too, to make sure that we get all these things taken care of, and that we get these things addressed as quickly as possible. I'm personally, when I look at this, I'm a little queasy about it, but I understand the process, and I understand, the conditional approval process, and as long as you're confident that you can meet these requirements and finish up on all this and get this sewer issue or sanitary issue resolved, I'm okay with it.
Okay. I mean,
I like, Crowell Road, hardware's been an important part of our community for a long time. Obviously, we don't want to see them, get pinched in the process, if that's not all possible. I'm glad they're moving down. I'm glad they're staying in the community and not leaving. It's nice to see that they're just going down the street, so that's a good thing.
Well, we're just as queasy as owners, so you know.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not standing where you're standing right now. Okay, any comments or any questions from the board?
I have just one question. When you mentioned the curb cut, who was responsible for the curb cut?
That's not part of
It's
our.
not part of our
Okay.
deal, but I'm saying, that was part of a deal that was bringing the septic system or the sewer system down. It was an agreement down the street.
That was the written agreement?
That's a written agreement.
Okay.
It's on paper, but it's not in dirt yet.
Jerry?
No questions.
Hiram?
No questions.
Frank?
Just the ones I had. I mean, this sounds like a very aggressive things that are gonna have to be done to meet deadlines.
Right.
And the thing with this, when I see so much that has to be done for deadlines, I don't wanna see in the long term cuts being made someplace that have an adverse effect with not only what you're doing, but what your customer is looking to have done. And then it becomes a conflict with the township trying to be able to work with you to get stuff like this done. And when you start doing that, so then you start cutting corners, then I see problems. But if you can assure us that you can meet all this and take care of all the stipulations that are in here, I mean, for me, go for it, like Andy says. Want to see a good client that's been in the township for many years, staying here and being happy what's being done.
And we want to keep them from having their business being interrupted and stuff. And
Right.
we're just going to do our best.
Right, exactly.
And there's timelines, but the way this is happening, a lot of this might not even happen until the end of next summer. But there's still things that have to happen along the way, so.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of timelines, but it's not insurmountable. It doesn't have to be done by June.
Okay, so a lot of this stuff right now is still in the agreement stages, and you won't be putting a shovel in the dirt until when, sometime next year?
Well, we'd like to, if the fall stays and we can get, a December start, we might even try,
So you will try to,
Yeah.
weather permitting, you will try to start
just to get something going.
get
Yeah.
something going.
Okay. Well, the staff does recommend a conditional approval of the site plan, as long as they meet the conditions that were set forth and outlined. And I haven't heard the applicants, say that they have any real problems with any of the issues that have been set forth here, so I would entertain a motion to the affirmative.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept Down Plankton's application 031 with all the recommendations to be met for subject of approval.
Okay, I have a motion made. Give it a second.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed. Let the record reflect it was a unanimous decision. Okay, guys?
Okay, was that, no, I didn't even put up the elevation. I don't know, was that for both the plan review and the building design? The addition is, I'm gonna throw my eyes on.
This is the design.
This is, yeah. The addition is actually just from here over. That's the
Right.
proposed addition. We're matching the, EIFS system, the split face block. It wraps the corner and comes back 100 feet. And that's the two elevations that we're using. And then the back elevation, which is again 26 feet. So,
Yes, doesn't look like it's very intrusive.
no.
Looks like it's a relatively minor addition to the building.
Yes,
That's going on Concord Motorsports, right?
yes,
Right, same building. Okay.
yes.
South end towards 84.
South.
Right,
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
okay. All right. I think we're all set then.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do believe we do need to vote on the design review as well. That
Okay,
was-
yes. I'll accept a motion in the affirmative on the design review. They've also agreed to the, subject to the following conditions.
Mr. Chairman, I so move that we accept the applicant's request for the site plan review under 031 McDonald Latham, with following the stipulations as indicated in the application to meet the requirements as stated by the facilities departments.
I'll second.
Second, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed, let the record reflect. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks again.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, so that knocks off the first 4 items on the agenda this evening.
Correct.
Now we have a work session to discuss proposed text amendments to the following sections of the zoning resolution. And who's giving us a presentation this evening?
Well, I believe I had indicated I had reached out to Stephanie Landgraf with Wiles and Richards, our legal counsel, and on a few items that we had been discussing within these different various sections. And I was not able to get a meeting with her. She wanted to diligently go through the details and making sure we're, getting everything right. So I would respectfully request that we could table the discussion on this until next month.
Okay.
If we could do that.
All right, based on your request, Heather, we'll go ahead and we will table item number 5 on the agenda. You can put that back, throw that back on there whenever you're ready on the next, whenever you feel you're ready to pursue that, whether it's next month or whatever.
Okay.
Okay? Item number 6 on the agenda is the work session to discuss research on microbreweries and urban wineries, and whoever did this, I'm hoping they brought samples tonight.
Hi, Zoning Commission. I apologize, I don't have samples, but I do have some additional, a revised page 5, where I kind of did a little bit more research and came up with a couple of suggestions on maybe some new text that we could put into the zoning resolution. And so this is just a suggestion for you to consider. And so I'll pass this out to you, and then we can kind of go through it, because I really feel like this is the product of all the research that I conducted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
So you had a good time going around to all these breweries, right?
I did not go to all these breweries yet. Maybe someday. Okay, so first, as you can see from the packet, I'm looking at page 5. I'm going to kind of go through that down. So I had done a lot of research on microbreweries. I looked at the ones that you had suggested, Fatheads, Great Lakes, Market Garden, other ones around town. And I talked to a lot of the different zoning officials in the different communities to see how they were regulated and any sort of specific conditions, if there is a conditional use required. And so first, for microbrewery, I think that our definition is good, and I think that Heather's suggestions to change gallons to barrels make sense. And so one notable person that I talked to was somebody at the city of North Olmsted, where Fatheads is located, and what she had told me was that it's very challenging to regulate the brewing capacity of a brewery, because it's just hard for a zoning official to know for sure what they're actually brewing. But what we can regulate is some of the specific conditions that they need to meet in order to get a conditional use approval. So that's really where we should have our teeth in the regulation of microbreweries. So I think it would make sense to change the definition to barrels. As to the capacity, the reason why 15,000 is in there is because according to the National Brewers Association or whatever, 15,000 is the brewing capacity of microbreweries. That's just their definition, so that's why I think originally when 15,000 was put in, that's the intention. So as for micro distillery, I think that the definition should pretty much stay the same. I do think that we should add tasting rooms, because tasting room is what these breweries seem to be having. They don't really call it a bar, they don't really call it a restaurant necessarily. It's a tasting room. That's just the lingo currently. So I think that we should put that in the zoning resolution, as well as maybe define it. And so I came up with a definition for urban winery. The important distinction between an urban winery and a regular winery is an urban winery sources fruit and fruit juices from off property, and they typically locate in normal commercial business districts, and they don't necessarily grow their own grapes. So this is something that we could see maybe in Concord Plaza, if there's enough room, maybe even Crowd Crossing, potentially. So, and then also we could have some sort of production capacity. For urban wineries, usually the owners don't try to produce a lot of wine because it's quality over quantity for them. So, and then also there would probably be some sort of retail sale area, so we have to think of how we're gonna address that in terms of parking and what square footage that might be. Okay, and so I had looked at maybe some conditions to put into section 13, the specific conditions for a conditional use permit for microbrewery and microdistillery or urban winery. I think we should add that in there. So first off, I think that we should expand the districts in which they're conditionally permitted. So not only should we conditionally permit them in Capital, but potentially Gateway Business District, potentially B1, and then also potentially BX. Depending on what your thoughts are, that might fit in with the, the businesses that are locating there, because a lot of times these might be just like restaurants. And restaurants are permitted in all those districts. So some additional specific condition that we need to address when reviewing conditional use permits for these uses is looking at the potential impacts at maximum capacity, at maximum production capacity. This is B under 13.35. So some additional effects that we need to look at is special event parking, and then hours of operation, not only for the tasting room, but all operations. So what time will they be brewing? What time will they be producing whatever they're producing? What time will trucks be going through? All of those need to be looked at when the applicant applies for a conditional use permit. And so then in section 22 area, I proposed maybe some additional districts. And then for the section 21 area, I just kind of did a preliminary sort of parking calculation. The unique thing about these uses is that parking should be calculated two ways. It should be calculated maybe similarly to how we calculate for a restaurant in the tasting room area, and then calculated for more of warehouse or a production or manufacturing area in the square footage designated to the tanks or fermenters or whatever they might have. And then so some additional research will need to be conducted on the retail component of these uses. Is it just outright permitted in a tasting room, or is there some additional sort of regulations that should be placed upon that? And then also something that I didn't look at, but does a brewery or a larger production facility meet the definition for light manufacturing and would be permitted in BX, M, and RD2? As Andy, you said before, a lot of times these breweries, they want to expand in terms of brewing capacity, and that's how they make money. And so if they outgrow their current site, I think it'd be good if we had a location in the township in which they could potentially expand and put, a larger sort of production facility. Actually, Voodoo, which I think you had told me to look at in Pennsylvania, they were located just in a small sort of commercial area. And then they grew into an 84 lumber facility, which we have an 84 lumber in RBX. So who knows what it could be in the future. But that was my research, and do you have any questions?
So the expansion would be a separate building, say there's the brewery or microbrewery over here, and then if they grew,
Yeah.
it would just, their tanks or something? Or
Yeah, that's the thought. And then, this could look like what Market Garden just put in downtown Cleveland next to the West Side Market, an area where they could offer tours and then maybe have a small tasting room, maybe a small retail area. But the main use of it would be the production facility. And that would alleviate some of the, traffic and production that would happen at the sort of, microbrewery restaurant sort of place.
So the tours, that was my other question, like when you tour these breweries or wineries, and is that considered tasting? Because I know I've been on a couple of you taste when you tour.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting, thing that we would need to look at further. Like if they would have a tasting room in a sort of larger production facility, how would we calculate parking? And then that just brings up so many more questions. But it's something that would need to be looked at, and maybe a brewery would need a conditional use permit in these districts, because they would need to prove that there's sufficient parking for, like large tours or something.
Business-wise, I work with Great Lakes Brewing,
Oh, really?
only because of the work that I do.
Okay.
And going through their plant, they had run into a problem with sewage.
Okay.
The runoff that they're required to do to sterilize their tanks and stuff became a hassle with the city of Cleveland.
I see.
Have you looked into something like that out here, and how we'd be able to, or they would have to comply
Yeah.
with those type of things for their manufacturing of their product?
Well, at least for the microbrewery use, which would be, the establishment in conjunction with the bar, restaurant, or tasting room, we
Right.
would want to see the potential impact of their waste disposal. So that's something that we would want them to prove that they could adequately handle waste
Right.
disposal at maximum brewing capacity.
Right.
But as I said before, I didn't really look into too much the larger scale production facility, but that's something that we should do more future research on.
We definitely have to do that, because there again, getting back to where I got involved with a couple of years ago, then they decided that they couldn't meet capacity. They expanded in Cleveland, and then they started bringing another additional shift in, which means work was going on for 2 shifts.
Sure.
And would it be something that the people around here, for example, over time, would it be able to accept a brewing going on for 2 shifts?
Yeah, which we would want to know, at least for the microbrewery, hours of all operation.
Right.
Any and all operation.
Correct.
And there have been instances in other communities where, a conditional use permit was only valid for 1 year, or unless anything changed, and then they could come back and maybe apply for a new permit, or, apply in terms of the modifications. So that's something that the BZA could potentially do as well.
Yeah, take and renew licenses on a basis that this stuff could be addressed. Because if it does become a hardship, or becomes a big burden on the township, there has to be a way we should be able to cut that off. And
But
I think that-
would that be with the barrels?
I think that kind of goes
Yeah.
back to our discussion at the last meeting of what would we be looking for in this? Are we looking for
Yeah.
specifically going to a microbrew with a restaurant and not looking to have a microbrew move into a bigger facility and brew where they have the
Right.
trucks coming in and out? But I would think that, if we, this should remain as I would say, more of as a conditional use And part of that condition could be have prior approval from the sewer district or the Lake County Utilities or whoever
Yeah.
the utility happens to be that's operating that, of approval of receiving that waste.
Right.
Because a lot of those, they'll just require them to do some kind of pretreatment before it's allowed to be discharged into the,
Big time.
yeah.
Trust me, big time.
No, I know.
It looks like your research shows that Great Lakes Brewery has 160,000 barrels. I mean, we're at 15,000. That's a big difference.
Well, I think
So-
in general, we're looking at keeping something here.
Yeah, so,
That's
so,
not- I
oh,
mean, excuse
sorry.
me, but I'm keeping something small. In other words, we're
Yeah.
offering something for the township, but we can't let it get out of hand. In other words, it could be a small place. We want them to thrive and have their little restaurant and testing rooms, but not to allow it to get something so massive in the township that could really be a burden.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, if it was going to be something so massive, like, what about them opening a facility in RD2, our industrial district,
Right.
where it's you know, intended for the traffic and.
Yeah, I think making it a conditional use in the RD2 is a smart move. That way, if they do grow, they can move to where they belong.
Yeah, where it can support the size.
Sure.
Right.
But even at that, I think as a township, we still have to be, we're not like Cleveland. A lot
Yeah,
of these big cities,
for
it's
sure.
no big deal for them, but for us as a township, it could become a big deal. So I think we have to look at how far will we allow this to go. We have to have restrictions. That only is going to grow this much, and that's it. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's my opinion.
My experience with microbreweries is that most of them are pretty unobtrusive.
Oh, I've been in
You
a few,
know.
yeah.
I mean, if you go, I mean, most of these facilities are not large.
No,
You know, they're typically built within existing commercial districts. They're not, they take up a, you know, an empty storefront or an empty building component of a larger building, or maybe some of them are standalone like Willoughby Brewing Company. But for the most part, you know, I think Fatheads is a standalone building.
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
But, you know, I think for the most part, a lot of the microbreweries are just, you know, a part of an existing structure. Now, in our area, we don't have that kind of existing space available, so it's probably something that's going to be built, purpose-built. So I think that, you know, and having the option to go from BX or, you know, some of the other districts and be able to move to RD2, if they would get that big or get that, you know, expansive, then that would be a good option. Because obviously
Sure.
you want to keep somebody, you know, if they're growing like that, you want to keep, you wouldn't want to force them out. You know, because we don't have the ability to accommodate them. We want to make sure that we're able to accommodate their growth if necessary. You
But
know,
I think what we would want to, my personal opinion on it would be to start with the restaurant, the small
Right,
micro. And if
exactly.
we start getting, you know, get a couple in that are starting to get to that point, and then we come back and readdress the idea of having that as a conditional use and add on to those conditions into the industrial area.
right. Yep.
and I
Anybody
think the
have any
biggest
question?
thing
Yeah,
that's
quick.
probably going to hold it at some size would be the thing about, like I say, waste and stuff.
Right.
If the, you know, they can take the capacity here, what we have in the township, I think that would be the biggest governing factor
Right.
from what I've got involved with in the past.
Okay.
So we would know it probably maybe won't be able to allow it to be grown any, because they don't have the capacity to handle the waste and the treatment that's needed for those kind of establishments. So that in itself will probably
That would limit
govern
their-
the size.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I like the idea of including the urban winery too. I think that's a good addition that rounds out, you know, the full complement of those types of businesses. You know, having the urban winery, the micro distillery and the microbrewery, I think gives all three options. I would really like to see something like that come to the township. It would be good for the township. So,
Oh, I
nice
have,
work there, Sydney. You did
Thanks.
Very good.
nice.
I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this in the future. All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Any further discussions on that matter, gentlemen? Ladies, excuse me. No slight intended.
I'll volunteer anytime for a road trip.
There's a lot of microbreweries.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
A lot of them. I think it would be great to land something, a business like that in Concord.
That would be nice.
That's definitely a destination type of a facility. You know, people drive, you would attract, people from all around this area, geographically from, a couple, 2-3 hours away, Erie, it's probably as far north as Buffalo and Michigan, Detroit, people drive on, I know, people that are, people that drive all over to go to these microbreweries. It's definitely a destination location, so it would be nice. Wouldn't be just for the township, so it would be a good thing.
I had a question on urban winery. Is that just that they don't grow their own
Right,
grapes
yeah.
on the
Yeah.
premises?
They don't have their own vineyards.
So it wouldn't be agriculture?
Yeah, they're just bringing,
buying-
they buy juice. They buy large quantities of juice or whatever their ingredients in large quantities.
Yeah.
And then they make it and they barrel it and ferment it on site, but they don't actually grow the grapes. So it's pretty common. It's not
A
unusual.
lot of people make their own wine at home.
Right, I mean, I
Right.
know of individuals who
So-
do that. I just
Yeah.
didn't know it was
Yeah.
called urban.
It's good.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay, item number 7 on the agenda this evening is the correspondence report by zoning commissioners. Frank,
Mr.
anything?
Chairman, I have nothing to report.
Sue?
I do not either.
Jerry?
No correspondence, Mr. Chairman.
None here?
None?
None.
Wow. If social media is included, there's been a lot of conversations and a lot of correspondence, but it's been mostly focused around the election, more than
Yeah.
zoning issues, so.
There's a lot of things I've heard people talk about,
Right,
but they haven't
Exactly.
approached me about
No
anything,
one's
so,
called or emailed me.
yeah.
yep. Okay. Item number 8 on the agenda is the audience portion of this evening's meeting. We have some audience members here this evening. Is there anybody that would like to come up and have anything to say? You want to come up and state your name, your address, and for the record, and ask away any questions, any input on the things we've talked about this evening?
I didn't realize he was going to make me do this.
That's okay, come on up. Nobody's making you do anything.
No, you don't have to be.
You don't have to
You don't
come up
have
if you
to.
don't want to.
That's okay. Give me a minute.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My goodness, I'm Carol Henry, 6426 Bay Road, Concord Township,
Okay, thank you.
44077. And I'm here actually just to observe how you do things. My son has recently moved back into the area, and he has some plans. Maybe the microbrewery would be a good idea.
Microbrewery is not in my
You do
plan.
that. Mother and son, that type of thing.
Not starting one, no.
But it's Chad Henry, that's my son. And I recognize Frank. We did the block watch together, do you remember?
Yes, I sure do.
You started it and then he gave me the ball.
Yeah.
And I think I remember you from Concord Community Days,
Mhm.
the auctioneer, yes.
Yes.
And I'm sorry your Pata, I don't know anybody else. But I've lived in Concord for a good many years, and of course, it's a lovely place to be, lovely place to live. Just keep it nice, keep it small.
We will. Good to see you, Carol.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks for your comments.
Thanks for your comments.
Okay, the next meeting of the zoning commission is December 5th. We okay with that, Heather? We have enough to do?
Yeah, we should be able to do another work session.
Okay.
We can have further discussion on the microbreweries and wineries, and by then I should have had a meeting with
Okay.
Stephanie, so maybe we can kind of combine some of those and come back with some more discussion.
Okay.
See where we're at with those items.
Super. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Anybody want to see anything on the agenda from the commission standpoint? Anything we need to talk about or want to add to the workload?
Other than we have to approve the minutes.
Yeah, who left that off?
We left,
The minutes weren't ready, so they're not on the agenda.
Oh.
We should have the minutes
So we'll get them in the
from
next
the month of October next month. Yeah.
okay.
Very good. All right, so we'll cover the next meeting. If there's no further business in front of the board, I will adjourn this meeting.